I think the gap between, say, the best team in the Big Ten of Michigan and the SEC is closer. It's narrow. It's winnable. Michigan's the favorite for a reason in this game, and I don't think they're really being treated that way with a lot of the coverage. I mean, they're being kind of talked about as an underdog, even though they're 13-0, undefeated, and favored in this game.
But I don't think anybody's sitting there saying, whether even locally or even nationally, saying that Alabama's going to steamroll them. I think the people that are picking Alabama just think it's going to be a close game. And overall, they think Alabama has a little more talent and speed and obviously a much better big game coach.
Yeah, I mean, you can't get away from the coaching discrepancy here. You're talking about the greatest college football coach ever who is excellent in this spot since the playoff format started. Mm-hmm. He's only had one loss, and it was Ohio State with the Cardell Jones and Zeke Elliott. That offense was humming. That's the only thing that took down Saban in this round. It was only by 7 points. You know, I don't think Bama or Georgia or the SEC are as good as they have been. I don't think this Michigan team's as good as last year. And that's probably my big dividing line versus a lot of people. I don't buy into Michigan being better this year than last year. I think the offensive line is significantly they're not bad.
No.
They're not as good as they were last year.
No.
Last Olawatimi's gone, and now you lose Zinner. And we don't know how that's going to play out in this game at all. I buy into the SEC having more talent, more 4 or 5 stars versus 4s and 3s. I do think if this was Michigan or Ohio State playing in this game last year's teams playing this year's Bama or Georgia,
if they were healthy,
that they would win. I do. I think the Big Ten's down. The Big Ten's big win is
Ohio State, Notre Dame on the road at night, or Penn State, West Virginia. And at the time, it wasn't that big a deal. West Virginia ended up having a decent season. My point would be the SEC has very few marquee wins, 7-10 in their non-conference Power 5 opponents. And what's their big win?
Exactly. And
I mean, if anything, there's epic losses. The Big Ten doesn't have some big loss in the non-con the way the SEC
playoff team
lost to Texas, right?
They beat LSU
lost to
FSU team
FSU,
in the country.
Right? Okay, but LSU lost to FSU. I mean, go up and down. Florida, who's not good, but they lost to Utah. It's across the board. North Carolina lost to.
You played the transitive property. Well, Utah lost to Northwestern in the bowl game. I mean, you can't go that way.
You know, I think this was a down year in college football. There's no doubt about it.
It's more open than ever.
I think everybody kind of slid down a little bit. See, I think that's what we're not seeing here because we're too close to the situation. Michigan, I don't think is close to being as good as last year's team. I think the wild card here maybe is that Corum didn't play in the TCU game last year, so they do have the 1-2 punch. I just think the difference here, I feel like Michigan. My perspective was a lot different from the Ohio State game than many people. I thought Michigan played a perfect game. I thought Sharon Moore pushed every single button right. And Ohio State was, 25, 30 yards away from winning the game? Can you do that again? Because I think you have to play a perfect game against Bama. That means JJ probably has to play his best game ever. I think Donovan Edwards is going to have to be huge in the receiving game, something we haven't seen as much as we thought we would this year. I think Michigan has to score a defensive or special teams touchdown.
You never want to be in that spot.
And I really do. I think they need to steal a score. And so that's why I picked Bama. But Michigan could do that. They got Will Johnson or Morgan.
Mikey Sanders still? Yeah. Always where he needs to be.
He's going to be right around either Burton or Bond. I'll tell you that. Because those receivers, those two, while they're not Waddle and Judy and those guys, or Smith, they're still very good. 248-539-9797. I agree that this is not the same Alabama team. And Michigan's defense, I think, is legit. It's going to be a close game. I can't get Saban out of my head. And I want to ask a question about Saban, by the way.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do people like or dislike Nick Saban? And
You're saying in the state here?
Yeah, and even Michigan State fans. Because a lot of people love him because he did a good job here, and a lot of people still pissed the way he left.
Well, they didn't pay to keep him.
I understand that, but he very succinctly told people at a public setting that he was going nowhere, and then the next day he's on a plane.
Yeah, well, he's done that a couple times.
I know.
That's kind of his MO.
Exactly.